Hello, dear interview friends. So, as you know, Mitra and I have been on a short break from recording, and we've been contemplating during this time about what direction do we want to take the podcast. And we have decided that we're going to bring the interview to a close. However, we're going to create something new in a slightly different format. And we'll be continue recording, but going forward on a monthly basis and under a new podcast name. So this will be the final episode for the interview. And Mitra and I thought it would be a wonderful time to reflect on what led to this decision and also reflect on what we've gained and what we've learned through this whole journey with the interview. So, Mitra, let's shed some light on what has led to this decision. Where did it start, and how did we end up where we ended up with our decision?
I think I can only report on at my end. For me, I felt like I was not very smooth with coming to recordings, and that's always a sign for me. And I examined it. What is it? Is it like working with Ben? Is it the time? What is it? And it wasn't. I mean, I look forward to connecting with you, and I enjoyed whatever we did, but I felt like there was something telling me that this is done. I'm very sensitive about being aware of endings. I remember I once taught a class on the art of mindful endings at UCLA because I felt like everybody teaches us how to initiate. It's like a go, get started. But the art of ending is also very precious and it's a delicate art. And I felt like I was at a place at my end, at least, that art needed to be activated and brought to life. So that's how I felt. How about you?
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And it was really a process, right? It was this journey actually started when, and I think it was October, November, where you brought up the question. You said, Ben, how are you feeling about the direction that this is going? And is this something that we want to continue? That planted the seed. And I reflected on it, you reflected on it. And through that process, we met again and we asked the question, do we end recording, working together in a podcast format? And for me, it was there's something that wants to continue here between you and I in terms of collaboration. And there was a big question mark, though, about if the interview was the format. We gave it some time, and then we decided to have this break from recording and create space to allow some clarity to come through. And it was during that time that we came to the conclusion that, you know what, yes, we do want to continue this collaboration, this connection through recording, through conversations that nourish us. But instead of weekly, let's do monthly. And not only instead of weekly and monthly, but also making it about just conversations between you and I, right? That interests us, that uplifts us, with which hopefully will uplift our, whoever chooses to listen, but a more unstructured and spontaneous format than we were following before. And it just felt right to close the interview and to do that under something new. Yeah.
It's fascinating that how two things can be right at the same time, even though they are opposite each other. So I was thinking ending, you were thinking continuing, and both is happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating?
It is. It is
It's
because we couldn't reconcile it at first. At
yes,
first, the reconciliation, we were like, what is it?" And the moment we had the idea of this, it resonated for both of us,
yes,
and we
yes,
just needed to create the space to do it. I think a key was taking a break from recording.
yes. And also the other thing, I mean, for interview friends that are listening for the last time to this format, in this format, is that when you give it space and it's not in the fear of losing something, something beautiful can be born. Because normally, if just think about it, anything, friendships, work together. When something is coming to an end, we usually go to a negative place, a mourning place, as like grieving place. Something is being lost. But when you give it enough space to be what it is, that's exactly what we did. We didn't sing and dance. We did not cry. We did not fight. It was just like, okay, that's interesting. Let's see what evolves and what comes out of that. And there you go. Something else was born. And that to me was you asked me, what are the lessons? That was the lesson, that it's so interesting that often when you are in a seemingly opposite place with someone, another being, um, you feel like there's no hope. This is it. You want to go south. I want to go north. So goodbye. And let's have a fight over that too, because, this and that. And then when you give it space, something new, it's a third option. It's not always black or white. There are a lot of shades in between the black and white. My heart was open to that, and I was very happy about that. Yeah.
I really appreciated your openness. I think there was a mutual openness to really trusting and understanding the intuition that each of us were receiving. Your intuition was to bring something to a close. My intuition was not necessarily to bring it to a close. I didn't feel like it. I knew something needed to change. I didn't know what it was. And you really honored that though, because you felt like you had that clarity and that clarity was right for you. And I also had my clarity, and in honoring that within each other, I think we were allowed to get to that place where it could be reconciled, and the clarity comes through.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was truly a clarity. I was sure that this needs to come to an end from my place and from where I was standing. And you were sure it needed to somehow continue. And I think by honoring those, I think on both sides, then something new was born. So that's why they say 1 plus 1 is 3. It's not 2 in spiritual world. And it is true. 1 plus 1 is 3.
Let's briefly highlight the evolution of where we started and where we're at now, because it's been an interesting evolution with the podcast. You and I initially it was a very spontaneous decision. We had met, and I jokingly invited you to come onto the podcast and co-host an episode, and you were like, "You know what? Yeah, that sounds good. Why don't we do a podcast together?" And the original vision was to do a podcast where we interview people, and hence the name. We wanted to go deep within people to understand beyond the veil, beyond their mask. Who are they? What drives them? What has shaped them? And we started to have those interviews, and they were beautiful. And we also recognized that there were some logistical challenges in working with with guests, with your schedule. It became very difficult to coordinate. For those of you who don't know, Mitra is incredibly in high demand, and her schedule is extremely tight. So navigating between guest schedules and your schedule and mine became a challenge. And we began to experiment with these duo episodes. And we found, you know what? We really enjoy this. We love this. And it started off unstructured. And I loved the unstructured episodes that we did, where we would just come into an episode, we'd come into a day, a session, not knowing what we are going to talk about, catch up, decide on a topic, and in that moment, just whatever wanted to reveal itself to talk about it. And then there was a desire to grow the audience, a desire to cater to the audience. In that effort, there was the evolution of adding more structure to the episodes and planning a little bit more ahead of time and whatnot. which had its own rewards. And I noticed that I enjoyed the unstructured episodes much more. It just felt more just nourishing and open and free. And now we've landed where we're at now. So, Mitra, I'm curious to hear from you. What have you learned through this journey?
I learned a lot, but I think the first thing I learned was that when we picked a topic, especially when we had a guest, um, I mean, it's really confirmation more than learning that there are so many ways of looking at one topic, one subject. And many look at it from physical perspective, and some go into psychological perspective. And my interest always is more energetic. And that's where I felt like I wanted to go to. I was pushing the conversation to go more into energetic aspect. And I learned that I can't force that on people. And if they want to stay at wherever they are, that's fine. I also learned that unmasking was not necessarily for everyone. There are some episodes we did not publish, so you don't know who we're talking about. It's not our guests that you know of. That unmasking was. I love unmasking, and I'm good at it. And they didn't like it. Many people didn't like it. They didn't even go there, or if they went there, they went reluctantly. So we didn't publish everything that we recorded. It sounded so wonderful, interview. You want to see the inside of people, but there are many doors to that inner world, and not everybody is open to opening all of them. So that's the first thing I learned. The second thing I learned was just how much we had in common. I mean, especially when it pertains to you. I mean, you seemingly are exactly opposite of me. You're male, you're young, you're single, and a lot of other things that, are different, but these are the main things. And yet when we talk, and especially our talks before we record, it's just like the idea of unity is so evident, so clear to me when you and I talk. And the fact that, yeah, you liked more structure, that's what I learned about you. And when we went there, and you had tasted the not so structured version, and now I'm hearing that you like that more. I cannot function within structure, not because I'm against it, but I mean, it just limits me. And you've seen me. I mean, I kick and scream when you tell
Oh,
me
yeah.
this, it's this and this, and they say this. I said, good for them. They say that. Can we just say what we want to say? So it's like you want to completely, kill my creativity, give me a lot of structure. But I also benefited from a bit of structure. I have to say it was good to find a middle way where there was some, I call it order, because the structure is for the mind and order is for the heart. When there is order and there's also spontaneous sort of participation and presence, that takes us to a very deep place. So that was the second thing I learned. And third thing is what I already mentioned, the fact that there's always another option. It doesn't need to be black or white, east or west. There's always the best of two worlds that once we give it time, once we are not reactive to the other suggestions and or other person, then it naturally evolves. I mean, you didn't say it right away. You just days later, I think, contemplated on it and you said, how about this? And I thought, yeah, that sounds good. You know, bringing it to an end, it sounds good. Doing it once a month, it sounds good. My body relaxed. And that's when I knew that this is a right decision.
I appreciate all those reflections. And you mentioned about unmasking being more challenging than we thought. Yes. Yes, there is, the urge, we observe the urge for, um, guests to want to, keep the mask, right, is very strong, and the willingness to take it off, wa was, was challenging. I mean, I'm sure there's a way we were experimenting, and the experimentation was fun. Um, but that was an interesting observation that you made. Yes, I taught you about a little bit of structure, and you taught me about more spontaneity, more unstructured. And you're right. I didn't realize how much I would enjoy episodes that are totally unstructured. Actually, before we started recording, I couldn't imagine myself going into an episode without some sort of plan. And during that period of time where we didn't have a plan, I really surprised myself. And I not only did I surprise myself with, being able to record a whole interview without any plan whatsoever, but um, I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it, how nourishing it was.
Yeah. We all have access to a deep knowing when we're present to it. And I count on that. I really count on that. I remember once a client of mine, a private client of mine, invited me to speak at their AGM, annual general meeting of their board of directors. And he gave me 45 minutes, which is huge for speaking. And so I show up in the place, and it was a huge place. And he says, "Okay, Mitra, this is the podium. This is this." He's introducing me to everybody. And he said, "You can put your papers here." And I said, "I don't have papers." He said, "You're speaking for 45 minutes, Mitra." I
Hmm.
said, "I know." So I bring one of these like post-it notes that I have put like 3 points that I wanted to make sure I speak
Mhm.
about. I said,
Mm.
"I have this." He looks at that and he starts freaking out. I mean, and I knew him because I had worked with him privately. And he says, "Mitra, I don't know what you're thinking. This is my board of directors. I trusted you." I said, "Settle down. I promise you I can go over the 45 minutes and they will be happy. Please don't freak out." He said, "I've never seen anybody coming with a post-it to talk for 45 minutes." So anyways, I settled him down because I was familiar with him, and then we talked, and of course it went to 60 minutes instead of 45 minutes because people asked questions, so I had to answer them. And he when I finished, he got up and it was very sort of almost inappropriate, and he started clapping and as if like, I was like an opera singer or something. Everybody was looking at him. I think he had a lot of fear that where I go. And then in a private session, I told him, I said, those 3 points came from my mind and my knowledge that I figured out those are appropriate for that setting and those people. Everything else comes from my deeper knowing. And when I'm present, when somebody is not freaking out like you, I actually can connect to that. And I'm not the only one. You can connect to that. Your brother can connect to that, and your friend can connect to that. So we actually became a point uh, of coaching, executive coaching, that how his leadership changed and became a combination of inner and outer.
Yeah, yeah, I really, gained a lot from that. And also, for that third phase of the podcast where we introduced some structure, that was something new for me because you can't work with just, structure. I had to think creatively about how can we add some structure or some order, as you called it, so that it still feels free, that you still feel free because we tried. I mean, we tried where I kind of laid out the outline of the episode and it just did not work. It didn't work. You don't operate like that. Your mind doesn't operate like that. Yeah, I learned the power of using questions through that process. So rather than, I was trying to think, what would work with Mitra, and the idea of using questions. And I would give you, before the episodes, I'd give you a few questions to contemplate, and that was really helpful for you. I noticed that that really resonated with you. The questions help guide but allow a lot of freedom for how they can be answered.
Yes. And I thought, how can I answer your questions in a way that is satisfying to your kind of mind. So I think this collaboration brought an amazing insight to how the opposite feels and thinks and operates. And I think that's a very precious experience. Yeah.
One thing that surprised me about um, the podcast and what it has given me is our pre-recording conversations.
Yes.
Those are my favorite parts.
That we
Right? Where
didn't share.
every episode for our listeners, Mitra and I spend, 30 minutes to an hour just catching up, talking about a variety of things, everything from what's happening in the world to our spiritual journeys to challenges that we're faced with and ideas that we have, philosophical questions we discuss. And those conversations brought me so much joy, so much
Same
joy.
here.
And as you had said, I didn't realize how much connection we had and how much we had in common. I knew we both were deeply spiritual people, but um, I didn't understand, or I wasn't clear on how deep that connection actually was, and it's been one of the most fulfilling friendships for me that I've ever had. So thank you.
Thank you. I remember letting my partner Henry listen to one of our recorded ones before we went on air. And I said, like, there's, this guy, I want to do this. I know him for this long. And he said, do you have anything for me to listen to? I said, sure. So I gave him what you had sent me. It was sort of, I think, a test. I can't even remember what it was, but I had some recording. And he listened for 10 minutes and he said, you got to do it. There is so much resonance. And that's the word he
Mm,
used.
mm.
And it was as somebody that had never met you, didn't know anything about you, but just listened to the conversation, knowing me. And he said, oh, that definitely you have to do it. And I thought, okay, that's interesting that, that was his evaluation. And yes, there is a lot of connection and there's a lot of similarities and we learn from those and it's beautiful and it's very valuable. And we're going to a time as we're recording this in 2026 that everything astrologically, politically, financially, spiritually, everything is changing. And maybe there are different ways of connecting and even authoring podcast. Everything they told us marketing wise don't do. Somebody said it's like I'm eavesdropping between your conversation. You guys are talking to each other. And I'm thinking, that's beautiful. I would love to listen to something like that, that it's so real, that it's
Yeah.
so between two friends, that it's not, manipulated by, statistics. It's just true. And I would love that. So maybe there's room for things that are once a month, that are just between two people, that is just real and what they're going through and what they're witnessing in the world. I don't know what we're going to call it, but whatever it is, I think it's going to be precious.
It's also beautiful to see some shifts that I've seen in you through the process. And one of the biggest ones is vulnerability. You've always been, from what I've observed, in a position where you are the space holder, you are the guidance giver, you are the teacher. And there's been little, I guess, opportunity to truly share and be vulnerable. And I remember in the beginning, it was new for you. It was unfamiliar for you to really open up on some of these topics that we've gone into, and to see that unfolding in you and in an organic way as we went through this journey has been really beautiful. It's been
Yes.
really beautiful, and that's been an incredible reward for me is to really get to know you on a deep level on who you are, what has shaped you, um, on your humanness. Because I think, um, being a teacher, it's sometimes it's hard. It's easy for people to overlook that. You know, even you, with all the wisdom that you have, and all the teaching that you do, have your human challenges. For you to be willing to really share and be open about that has been beautiful to witness.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. I think both by training and nature, um, am reluctant to be vulnerable. I mean, I started doing these when I started doing coaching. Coaching wasn't a thing, 40 years ago. People weren't coaches, and mainly my clients were male. So I was a young woman and working with men in position of power. So automatically some protection came in and I just shared very, very carefully and never went to a personal stuff to make it and keep it professional and to some degree safe for myself and safe for them. So that was one. And then it was also the fact that I am in this world and everything is confidential. Like I'm so reluctant to even when I give an example, I usually use other countries. Like I tell my American clients in private setting about example of Australian clients. And to Australian clients, I talk about a Japanese client because I'm just very aware that they may know each other. And even the world is getting so small that they still may know each other. So automatically confidentiality and carefulness became a thing. And yeah, so there's that habit. And you are right. I opened up and it's beautiful because it's good to see that when you have a journey and when you have worked so called on yourself, it's not that you don't fall. Falling is part of human experience. It's just you get up differently. You get up with a different sense and different energy and different speed because you understand what life is all about and what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Mitra, the time has come to officially bring a close to the interview. What would you like to share before we end this final episode?
I want to say, first of all, thank you to the team, to Eric and to Anita, and of course to you. It's been wonderful working with you. And I know we get so close because they get to hear all of our conversations, even the ones that we didn't want to go on air. So I thank them. I want to thank people who have been listening to us, and I receive a lot of feedback. I'm always surprised when somebody says, "Yeah, you said that," and I think, "When did I say that?" They say, "Oh, we listened to your podcast. You were saying that," and it's just such an honor to come to your homes, to come to your cars, to come to where you are and be part of your life. I'm grateful for that opportunity. And I also want to say this is not goodbye. This is see you later in another room that we're going to be creating together. And we're going to let you know in May.
Amen to that. Ditto to all of that. Thank you um, to all those who have contributed to this podcast. Thank you to you, Mitra, for being on this journey with us. Thank you to our audience for being on this journey with us and growing with us and evolving with us. For this new podcast, Mitra and I are expecting to publish our first episode in May. So be on the lookout for that. We'll notify everybody, probably either here on the platform or on social media. Until next time, bye for now.
Bye for now.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. For a list of the links and other resources referenced in this episode, check out the podcast description.
If you're benefiting from our podcast, we'd love if you could help us reach more people by subscribing. Your support means the world to us. From our hearts to yours, we thank you.